everybody, it's Pop, and I'm back for the first time in 2024. And in this video, I'm going to go over some of the workflows I use to create custom Loras on 8 gig RAM GPU, which you need to use a few specific settings to be able to do it. So here I'm just going over the Lora settings that I use. I use the 0.03 learning rate for UNet as well as the text encoders, and then I use some uh, flags like the low RAM flag here. And here I'm actually also generating an image anytime that I complete a epoch in the Lora training, and I trained it for 10 epochs. Here actually showing that I did renders of 3D asset that I looked at and textured, as well as modeled and lit. And those images then I use as the dataset, which I also use the tagging tool in Lora. So I actually just rendered 10 images and then I made a total of 20 by having a duplicate of them with a white background. So here I click on the print training command, and this is basically all the settings that I had set up. So what you'll need to do is just copy these, and from the Lora install that you have, you can launch a command window. So here, yeah, I'm in the koya setting, then I go into B&B scripts, and then in the Explorer tab, I type in CMD, then activate, and then CD back to directories so that you're in the main koya directory, and then you paste in your command that was printed. And then here it's going to take a little bit of time to start up, but eventually it'll begin. And here, since I'm recording, it's gonna give or show that it's gonna take a long time. And also here I'm showing my task manager to show all the VRAM that it needs. So my VRAM GPU is 8 gigs, but then it goes into the shared GPU, and then when it starts the training here. And you can see also here that it says that it'll be training the UNet and text encoder. And then this here, I'm just scrolling down. So this is the finished result of the Lora training after 10 epochs. And on my PC, it took about 14 hours total. Then here I'm actually going into the A1111 just to do the XYZ plotting to find out which is the best epoch that the model was trained with. And this is using the base SDXL. And here, yeah, I'm just kind of going through the XYZ plot grid just to see which image result matches closest to the original input images that I rendered from my 3D software. And here, the best result is actually epoch 2, and the CFG is between 5 to 8. That gives the best result. And then I tried a second XYZ plot, trying to get a man holding the sword, but since none of my input images in the dataset had a man actually holding the sword, the results aren't that great. There is one that the hands are somewhat okay, but later on in the video, I'm actually going to show that I'm able to make it work using a few control nets, open pose, and depth. And here, going back into comfyui, I chose to use the epoch 2 Lora, and then I'm just here using one of my base SDXL workflows. So I'm still using the same kind of prompt that I used when I generated the dataset, just to get the result similar to some of my input images. And it does give a pretty nice result. It's not one-to-one, of course, because the 3D software will be able to render all the details much higher quality. here, yeah, so I'm actually rendering 3 times. The initial image is at 1K, then at 1.5K, and the final image is at 2K. And my original images are also the ones that I use for the dataset. I just rendered them out at 1K, but I could get even more quality if I were to render them out at a higher resolution, like 2K or even 4K. And another thing I'm thinking about doing on future Loras is to actually have different lighting scenarios. For example, like rendering it in a forest environment or a beach environment or an indoors environment, just to give more um, or to give different images to the dataset. And then that'll make the LoRa be more flexible. So here I just opened up the um, 5 different results and just zooming in to see the quality and detail that it was able to produce. The shape of the blade isn't 100%. It's similar, but here, yeah, at the 4x upscale, you can see that the image is more like a painterly look, but it tries to mimic the details that are in the CG render. The highlights and the response are matching pretty close, but the fine details aren't there, I would say. And here, showing another workflow that I have where I do a XYZ plot in comfyui, but this one's to figure out which block or layer of the SDXL model is the one that my Lora is affecting the most. So here, the one that is matching very close to my input images is the layer number 8. So yeah, this kind of just shows the influence of my Lora at the different layers. So the background looks similar. The blades aren't matching, but some of the texture detail is mimicking my input images. But yeah, in the layer number 8 is the closest here. And I noticed though that to get even more detail in this type of XYZ plot from Comfy, I'm actually gonna um, do or input my Lora twice so that it has like a doubling up effect, and then that way it's easier to see all the different results from each different layer. And then yeah, here's just changing the seed. The seeds just went up by 1 integer value. And the shapes aren't exactly like my input images, but it's good to see that even though I used 10 initial images, but I duplicated them to be 20 by giving it the white background, it's still somewhat flexible. So here, yeah, I added a Lora stack with my sword Lora, and then in the XYZ Lora block weight as well, I inputted it there again. So it's basically gonna double it up, or the influence will be doubled up, and then it'll actually match closer to what my dataset images were. So here, yeah, I'll just open up. So this way it's easier to see the influence from the Lora, and you can actually see the different layers, and certain layers have a better shape to the sword. Some might be a little bit distorted, or some might have the hilt being too long. For instance, yeah, this one, the blade is not matching as much as my input images. It has too many weird artifacts of like the cracks, but through the different layers you can kind of see in this one here. Yeah, you can see that the handle of the hilt is elongated. This one, that one didn't come out that great at all. So next, I'm just gonna go through a few different images, but here I'm actually using the Lora block weight with the values for each layer that gave me the best result. And this is just like I'm prompting for a rusty metal Iron Man suit. And here, yeah, the result is pretty decent. You can see that he's not like his clean red and golden armor look is getting some of the influence from my rusty metal sword and hilt. And he's inside of a barn, but also the background, it gets some of the influence from the input images in the dataset with regards to the lighting and the look of it as well. So here's like a 4x version upscaled, and yeah, the details are pretty nice of the rest and how they're layered with a coat of the orange paint on top, and some of the silver parts are more like the blade of the sword. And the reflection qualities somewhat mimic the input images look as well. Yeah, such as the highlight there on the shoulder, chest area. And then this is just the 4x downscale to 2. The result is pretty nice for just like a worn and old Iron Man outfit. And here, testing it out on making a Gundam wing suit. Have the influence from the sword Lora. So it has the orange painted metal parts with a lot of rust, and then some of the parts are that silver colored, or the gray colored blade style. And in this particular one, the background, yeah, it came out just like what my input images background had. So this is the 4X Mobile Suit Gundam Wing Castle Crasher sword look. And he's standing like on a base that is also rusty and silver colored. And then this is just a 4x downscale to 2, which would be the final image that I would keep from these results. Yeah, the blade has some of the texture detail that my sword 3D asset has. And then here I just changed also the prompt a bit for the Gundam wing to be in outer space, surrounded by colorful nebulas, billions of light years away. Yeah, because the more tokens that you add to the SDXL prompt styler, the more kind of influence that you're able to have on the final result. Even though your Lora doesn't have kind of any outer space images, right? In this case, I was able to push it enough to still make the Gundam have the texture details of my sword, but be in a somewhat different environment. And then here, just prompting for a rusty metal computer from the 1980s. And basically, I just wanted to see if I was going to be able to do Lora, SDXL Lora on my RTX 2060 Super GPU, which is only 8 gig GPU. Because last year, when SDXL came out and when the ability to train Loras for SDXL models was available, you couldn't really do it at all with any VRAM GPUs that are less than 16. 12 maybe was able to be done, but here I'm just showing that you guys can do it if you have a 8 gig RAM GPU. So give it a shot. I also have 32 gigs of RAM. So if you have 16 gigs of RAM, like on your computer, it might be a little bit more difficult. So here, I actually am prompting for a man holding the sword, and I implemented. I kind of cleaned up my workflow a bit, but it still has some of the same controls for the separate CFG seeds and stuff. But here, yeah, I am importing a 3D render of a character in a pose holding the sword, and then that I get the open pose from it, and then I actually made a depth map render from my CG render engine, and then I'm using that as the depth map input. I'm doing it at 1K, but then also doing the upscale to 1.5, 2K, and then 4X. And the result came out pretty decent. The sword looks similar to my sword dataset. And then here's the double res. I'm using advanced K samplers as usual, just to be able to control the denoising more precise. But here you can see that where he's holding the sword and the like where his hands are holding the hilt, they're getting a bit of the orange metal material. And he has like a belt and some boots that look similar to the material qualities as well of the hilt. So here is the 4X model upscaled, which looks quite similar to my CG sword as well. The person isn't the best, but since this is base SDXL, is decent for what we get. And I could try also some of the community trained models, and the results will be much better for getting a character holding the sword. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and try out this workflow for being able to train Lora on your low RAM GPUs, or even people that have higher VRAM GPUs. You could probably train them even faster now by just using the command line style training.